Listen to that beautiful humming there. That's right, we're going to be talking about another PC build. And a few introductions are in order. Hi everyone, my name is Leo from Tech Lion. We're actually going to be talking about a PC that I built for my partner. It's a bit of an upgrade from an earlier PC that they've been trying to game on. This is one that I built because I felt that they needed something a bit more powerful to play some games that we've normally been either playing together, like World of Warcraft and the entire Borderlands series, but along with some day-to-day gaming that they do, because they are also a huge fan of the Tomb Raider series of games and a couple of other things that they've picked up on Steam. As for the parts that we're going to be using in this system, it's going to be rocked by an Intel i5-11600K, 16 gigabytes of memory running at 3200 megahertz, and the video card in question will be the RTX 1060 6GB card. So first things first, let's start off with the processor in question, the i5-11600K. Not a processor that I would normally recommend in this day and age. The 12th generation of Intel processors are cheaper and faster than this piece of hardware that we're using here, but this is a system that I built about a year ago. But for the performance that we're aiming for, it actually does a pretty good job, even in this day and age. It does have 6 total cores in it, 12 threads, and it can boost up to 4.9 gigahertz. Now, unlike my last video, which was more of a build guide, this was just going to be talking about the upgrades that we're doing here. In this sense, we're just going to be slapping in this 11600K over into this LGA 1200 slot and get that snapped on in. And for our RAM, of course, we're going to be sticking with a 16 gig kit, 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes by G.SKILL, their Ripjaws series. I did choose this one mostly because it was cheap. It cost me about $40 to grab this pair, and they look pretty aesthetic. And just like any other sticks of RAM that we're using, we got to attach them to the appropriate slots. And this one is going to be slot 4 and 2. Now, since this processor that we have does not come with a fan, like some of the 12100Ks that I might have been using, or even some of the Ryzen processors, we have to buy an external tower cooler for this processor. This time, it's going to be the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Black Edition fan. Comes with a 120mm fan built right onto it, and you can see plenty of heat pipes that are on. And the reason I chose this one is because it was, one, $35, and it worked very well for that price. But of course, before we actually install the cooler itself, I'm actually going to get a nice pea-sized dab of thermal grease right onto the processor itself. More than enough. Now, we won't be going through the full mounting mechanism here in the back, but you can see from the other side of the motherboard, right behind the LGA 1200 pin, we have the mounting bracket that's here, and these lug nuts that are screwed in over from the other side. Once the nuts have been securely fastened, we can take the actual tower itself and screw it in from the top. Now, what is definitely one of my favorite parts with working with these tower coolers is attaching these fans using these little hugging brackets, if you will. It's not like some of the other coolers that were top down you could screw in. You can very easily, as you can see here, get some of these little clips over here on the side and just snap that fan right onto there. Like I said, very easy to do. Can always get it on the first try, no problem. And look at how easy that was. Now for the power supply in question, this happens just to be one that I gutted from another PC that I happened to obtain. It is a 450 watt EVGA bronze power supply. Normally I would go for something with a bit more juice, especially for the video card that we're using, but 450 is enough for it to run. And for the video card in question, of course, it's going to be the Gigabyte GeForce GTX 1060 6GB card, which is the #1 video card still on the Steam hardware survey, used all the world over. Now, my personal opinion, this card is starting to show its age. It is 6 years old as of this point, and I purchased this card originally when it came out on my birthday back in 2016. So it is well over 6 years old right now, but it's still running pretty sturdy and still perfect for esports titles and still games like World of Warcraft. And of course, over to my favorite part of any PC build out of the towers that I've been building, slapping in that video card. That's a satisfying click. Almost done with the build over here. We just had to get that 8-pin connector for the power to the graphics card. And now it's good to go. And let's just clean up these cables over in the back. Clean. Now, for as decent as this processor and motherboard were then, I wouldn't recommend building anything like that now, mostly because of the price to performance ratio. If we were to check out over on Newegg an 11600K, it still costs $225 for this processor. On release it was $300, and even then it definitely wasn't worth it for that cost. The only reason I jumped onto it when I had the opportunity is because I found it for about $170 on eBay. Something I would personally recommend instead, especially if you're going for any kind of gaming these days, is going to be the 12400F instead, and an associate video card with it, as the F processor doesn't actually have an integrated graphics chip, so you do require a dedicated video card from there. But for the price that you're paying for it at $177 that you saw there, and the upgradability down the line as you're going to be using the new platform that Intel is going to be using, or you could wait for an AM5 chip from AMD that comes out later this year. I'd like to thank all of you for watching, with a quick shout out over to our website over at techlionpcs.com, where we are building and selling some of these builds that you're seeing on these YouTube videos. If you have any questions, hit us down below over in the discussion here on YouTube, and until next video, ciao.